In this video, I am going to focus on what exactly happened between Donald Trump and the European leaders in the White House. So I'm going to summarize everything up. What are the European leaders asking for? And what are the Americans asking for? And what exactly does the Ukrainians want? And what exactly does the Russians want? That is what exactly I am going to focus on. So guys, welcome to Timothy 360. If you want me to continue giving you guys this update, then consider hitting on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. The more I see the channel growing, the more I'll be motivated to do, these things. So guys, let's go into the details. So one, they spoke about security guarantees. So I'm going to pick the points one by one and explain to you guys. They spoke about security guarantees. So the European leaders are asking for a security guarantee for the Ukrainians. But the Russians are kind of skeptical about Ukraine's security guarantees because they are not too sure of what the Europeans mean by security guarantees. The Russians are equally calling for security guarantees. They equally want security guarantees. So according to the Russians, they can't just talk about Ukraine security guarantees without talking about Russia's security guarantees. Just like what happened between during the Soviet Union era between Gorbachev and Ronald Reagan. I hope you guys remember during the Soviet Union era when tensions were high, when the Americans placed their weapons in Turkey aiming at Moscow, the Russians also decided to put their weapons in Cuba, targeting American major cities. So it got to a point, under the presidency of Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev, they decided to come together to work on peace guarantees. So both the Americans had security guarantees. The Russians also had security guarantees. So both countries worked on security guarantees. So meaning the Russians will not target the Americans again. Neither would the Americans target the Russians again. And that is something, or this is exactly what the Russians are asking for. So if Russia should accept that we are not going to attack Ukraine again, fine. What about Russian concerns that Ukraine shouldn't join NATO? What about that? So meaning if Ukraine is only assured, the Russians are not assured. That means Ukraine can still go ahead to join the European Union. That means Ukraine can still go ahead to join NATO. So Russia's security guarantees are not addressed. And that is why the Russians want a broader security guarantees, which cover both Russia and Ukraine and not just Ukraine. Number two, let's move on. Number two is a ceasefire. So the Europeans are calling for a ceasefire, but Donald Trump yesterday said it clear that he is not focused on a ceasefire. His main intention is to end the war. What do they mean by ceasefire? Ceasefire means the war should stop. Then they work on a negotiation. Meaning, if the war continues, or if they don't reach peace agreement, the war can continue. And that is why Donald Trump said, okay, we accepting a ceasefire is going to give an advantage to one side. Meaning, if the Russians are winning on the battlefield, they will wait or they will stop. And according to the Russians, why they reject the ceasefire is if they accept a ceasefire or if they agree to a ceasefire and the war stops right now, the West will use or they will take advantage of that ceasefire and rearm Ukraine. They will rearm Ukraine, rebuild the Ukrainian army. According to the Russians, the West has disappointed them before. Remember the Minsk II. They accepted to this peace agreement back in the days, the Minsk II, the Minsk I. But later, former German Vice Chancellor Angela Merkel came out and said, they only use the Minsk I and Minsk II to buy time for the Ukrainians to build their army. And that is the exact consensus of the Russians. If they agree to a ceasefire, that would give enough time for the Ukrainians and the Europeans to rebuild the Ukrainian army. And that is why the Russians reject the ceasefire. And Trump realized this, and that is why Trump said if he works on a ceasefire, it is going to affect one side. One side is going to enjoy and the other side is going to be affected. And that is why he's not focused on a ceasefire. He's rather focused on a broader, topic. He wants to end the war completely, and that is what he's working towards. Number 3, future summit. Okay, so future summit. So both Donald Trump, Zelensky, and Vladimir Putin are working on a trilateral meeting. So in this meeting between Donald Trump and European leaders, they spoke about a trilateral meeting, meaning both leaders, the 3 leaders, will meet and have a discussion about what exactly, the outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war will be. Donald Trump met with only Vladimir Putin, and he also met with only Volodymyr Zelensky. But this time around, they are working on a deal that will bring all these 2 leaders together in one place. Remember, ever since this war began, they've never sat down this way to actually talk about peace. So this is the first time that something like this is going to happen. Number 4, arms deal. This is where the hypocrisy of the West comes in. The same West is calling for a ceasefire on the front lines. The same West agreed that they are going to send more arms to Ukraine. You see why the Russians rejected the ceasefire deal. So the same West agrees that all the weapons that America will send to Ukraine, they are going to pay for it. NATO is going to share the cost. So they signed an agreement that says that they must continue providing the Ukrainians with arms. According to the European Union, this is a good move to actually force Vladimir Putin to the negotiation table. But the realities on the ground say something completely different. Whether they arm the Ukrainians or not, I don't think the Ukrainians have any advantage on the front lines or the battlefield, because if you look at the beginning of the war, the amount of weapons they gave it to the Ukrainians, if that weapons couldn't give the Ukrainians an advantage on the battlefield, then I don't see how today the weapons they are going to send is going to make any much difference on the battlefield. Because number 1, note that the Russians' military-industrial complex production is more than the West and America combined. So whatever the Russians produce in a month is more than what the entire NATO produce in a month. And both the West and America, they also have security issues. They can't just give everything to the Ukrainians. That is going to make their own security vulnerable. So they wouldn't want to do that. So continuously providing weapons for Ukraine, I don't see how that is going to benefit the Ukrainians. Number 4. Okay, that was number 4. I'm still number 4. Okay, so number 5 will rather be number 5 will just be diplomatic process. So let's put that aside. I think that was the main core. So these are the 4 points. Let me name the 4 points for you. The main 4 points. Number 1 is security guarantees. Number 2 is ceasefire. Number 3 is future summit, which involves a trilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky. And number 4 is arms deal. So these are the 4 main points which came out of Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky meeting and the European Union in the White House. So this is the main points which they discuss about. The rest, I don't think is that important. The rest, like them taking pictures together, the media, and Donald Trump asking Volodymyr Zelensky about his suit. These are all not important, but in terms of the deal, this is the main important. I also asked ChatGPT to give me a summary of what exactly happened, and this is what ChatGPT said. Well, if you are still watching the video, consider hitting on the like button, and if you are still watching the video, please write Timo in the comment section. You know how we do it. Write Timo, 360 in the comment section. Write Timo and let me know how many of you are still watching the video. It's very, very important to me because not everybody will watch the video to this point. So those of you who are still watching, you are my loyal followers, you are my loyal subscribers, and it's very, very important to me. So write Timo in the comment section and I'll respond. So this is what ChatGPT said. This is what AI is saying. Bottom line, this White House summit marks a pivotal moment. Europe and the USA are coordinating closely on Ukraine security and exploring bold war-gaining such as Trilateral summit. Trump's willingness to bypass typical or skipping a ceasefire proceedings, proposing direct talks with Putin and coordinating arms support backed by European Union signals a dramatic and fast-moving diplomatic effort. Dramatic. In fact, there is a dramatic aspect of this whole meeting between these, European leaders and Donald Trump. For example, the arms deal. I mean, this is very dramatic. If you guys actually want an end to this war, I don't see the need for you to supply more arms to Ukraine. I don't get it. I've told you guys before that the West is currently confused because they told their people that let's sanction the Russians, and in attempt of sanctioning the Russians, they decided to rather destroy their own economies. That is what I call that they shot themselves in the foot. So in attempt to destroy the Russian economy, they rather destroy their own economy. Remember, the Russian economy today, the Russian currency is #1 in terms of purchasing power in the whole of Europe. Remember, I've told you guys several times that this war has rather made the Russian economy bigger. Remember or note that the Russians have shifted their economic reliance on the West. They've rather moved it to Asia. Take China alone. China alone buying oil from Russia is more than the whole European Union. For example, China production exceeds the whole of European Union. And you need oil for production. Whatever the Chinese are producing, most of these things, they need oil for their generators or whatever machines they are using to produce whatever they are producing around the world. They need oil, and most of this oil and gas is coming from Russia. So the amount of oil that the Chinese consume is more than the whole G7 countries combined. So meaning the Chinese alone buying from the Russians is enough to sustain the Russian economy. So how did the Russians lose? I still don't get it. By the way, thank you very much for watching again. Timo Media 360. By the way, this is Timo 360. Let me caution you guys. The Timo Media 360, there is a problem there. That is why I decided to create the Timo 360. So thank you very much once again for watching this video. I will continue to give you guys more updates. Today, I haven't been that active. This is my first video today. By the way, I just came and I decided to give you guys this update. Are you guys okay with the 3-4 videos I release in a day? If you guys observe, ever since I created this channel, I release 3 videos or 4 videos in a day. 3-4. Even some days I release up to 5 videos. Do you guys want it that way, or you want me to slow down? Let me know in the comment section. Shalom. See you guys in the next episode.